So recently I bought a new GBBR, the Tokyo Marui MWS, and honestly, I'm sad that I didn't buy one sooner. I've been really enjoying it, and it's becoming one of my favorite gas blowback experiences. One of my favorite things about the platform is it just works and shoots great. I'm not so bothered about the realism factors. I like how it's built. It's designed to be an airsoft gun more than anything else, and that's something I really like and appreciate about it. That said, it's not perfect, and there are some areas where it could improve. Now, some people don't know this, but the MWS is designed to be used in Japanese climates where they don't have green gases. They use a less intense gas to operate their guns, and it's what they're actually designed for. And because of this, when us Westerners use their guns and we use our typical green gases and propane and such, they go under a lot more wear than they're used to and that they're designed for. So typically a part you'll see break because of this is the nozzle spring for the MWS. Now I didn't see many people have videos about how to replace this, so I thought I'd film my own of how to swap your MWS nozzle spring. So let me get out my MWS and we can begin the video. Now I know my MWS probably looks a little bit different to yours, but you don't need to worry. Although the externals might be different, the internals are all the same. You don't need to worry. Everything will come apart the same way. So let's begin. Now we're going to want to remove our rear pin here. And luckily this is quite easy. And once that's out, fold the gun, pull back on the charging handle, and take out our bolt carrier. Charging handle can stay there for now, and we can put all of this to one side and keep our bolt carrier group here. So let's zoom in to give you a bit of a better picture. So we have our MWS bolt carrier. I am using a guns modified nozzle, but that is not going to change how we do any of this process. Now, some of it is a little bit picky, a little bit finicky, but for the most part, you're going to be just fine. If we follow this step by step, I'll show you the tips and tricks I use to do this. So let's first remove these two screws here, and we'll just do that with a simple screwdriver. And whilst we film this video, I am also going to clean my bolt carrier of all the excess lube and apply new lube, but I will show you that as I go. It's a good practice. Let's put these screws safely to one side where you can get them later. And so once we have those screws off, we are going to want to remove this plastic retainer here. This helps retain the nozzle and make sure it doesn't drift too far. And this is loaded underneath spring tension, and this spring is known to ping off, so it might be worth covering your hand with it or just being ready for when that comes out. And so I do this by lifting the rear, and you can hear the spring pop out of its place, and then I just push forward a little bit, especially with the nozzle. Oh, there goes the spring, told you. And then out comes our plastic retainer. We'll put it to one side. And as well as your spring, try not to lose it like I just did. And now that we have this, we're going to want to remove this plastic piece here, which is retaining this silver tail. And we'll see why all this is important later, but for now, just can use a screwdriver, you can use a Phillips head too, and you just want to pull up against these little notches on the back of the plastic piece, and then you can just pry that out gently. And put this to one side, it's very important. And now that we've done that, the nozzle will remove from the bolt carrier, so you can just push on this silver tail here, and out comes our bolt carrier. Oh, sorry, I mean out comes our nozzle. Now you put your bolt carrier, what I meant before, to one side. So now we just have our beloved nozzle, and what we can do is take off this rear piston cup, and this is just friction fit. Helps to have nails here, and you just want to gently, like I am doing, pry this off a bit. There we go, off it comes. Done. Put him to one side. Next up, there is a screw up here on the top of the nozzle, and we are going to unscrew this. Now this is very easy to take out. There we go. And when we reapply this, we will talk about how to correctly put this in, as it takes a little bit of technique. And you don't want to overdo it, do it too tight. Got to be careful with all these bits. Put that to one side. Your tail holding your nozzle spring should remove. It might need to take a bit of convincing. There we go. Now, what you'll get is the nozzle spring assembly, and the nozzle will also have your rocket valve and spring in there. And so then out comes your valve and nozzle spring in this order. So we'll put these to one side. We need to remember them later. It's very important to get your gun working. And this is your nozzle. And you put him to one side. And now we're left with all the important bits for the rest of the video. And this is where things get quite finicky. And so this is actually the old nozzle spring. And as you can see, not as colorful, not as marketable. And yeah, I decided to make my own nozzle spring. You actually get 2 of these per packet, so it's actually quite a good deal. There are links in the description below if you're interested. They're higher rated, stronger steel, and you get 2 of them. It's good value for money. And with being pink, it helps you decide which brand, because some people struggle to tell the brands of everybody else because they're all the same sort of typical silver and black. But here you can clearly tell what it is. Anyway, enough of that. Now we can move on to the hard part. So the goal here, if you can see, is to remove these 2 roll pins at each end of the tail of this nozzle spring assembly. And this is pretty hard. This is why I'm making a video. People really struggle with this. I do too. I seem to struggle less than most, but I understand that it helps to have all the right tools. It really helps to have a very fine punch set, and it also helps to have something that you can help bash this out on. So I have a very fine punch here. It's a little bent actually, probably from the amount of times I'm grug hammering things. And it also helps to have some kind of mallet. So what I like to do is I like for these roll pins to have somewhere to go whilst having something to leverage it against. So sometimes I will dangle it off the edge of like a block of wood like that, hold this on awkwardly with my hand, and then bash away at it with a hammer. And I will say I find the plastic piece is much easier to bash out, and the silver piece is much more difficult. It seems to be further in there. This will take some patience. It is finicky, and so do be careful. This back piece is plastic, you could break it. This front piece, whilst metal, still I would be gentle. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start with the rear plastic piece and see how good we get along with it. I actually, also another thing that might help, I have a hole, little hole here, which is where a lot of these pins end up going. And I'm just using a cheap chopping board, and it just helps with giving it some guidance on where to go. And just like that, we've removed the rear, and the good thing is the roll pin has stayed in, which means when we go to attach our new spring, we can just hook it on and then just re-hammer it back on. So that's something you want to be aware of. Just be careful of losing these. It's nice that they come and stay here attached. And so now we move on to getting rid of this silver one, which is much more of a battle. So I will bash away at this for a while, and I will cut back once I've done it. Hopefully it doesn't take me too long. Nearly there now. My little hole in my chopping board doing wonders at the minute. And just like that, I have removed our little tail piece, and my roll pin did come out, but luckily I managed to catch it. So next, so again, I'll be using one of ours. We get 2 per packet at 130%, 100% being the stock TM nozzle strength, so you're 30% stronger to keep up with the feeding. Links below for these, but I'll be using just one of these and keeping the other as a backup should I ever need it. Hopefully I won't. So here we have our brand new nozzle spring, very shiny, nice and tense, beautiful coating. We're in the right hands. Okay, so we start with this pin, the plastic side, and I like to slide this over the rear tab. There we go. And once that's on, the plastic one lets me just press fit it into its position, which is convenient. The plastic tab's much more forgiving. What I will say is you want to be very careful with this. You don't want to break it. Be nice and gentle. And there we go. Just that one done now. And now we have the harder job of getting the silver tail on there. So let's see what I can do here. Line this up with that hole. And then we want to get this pin through there. Let's see. Can I do any of it by hand? So I've just given it a quick bash and I've managed to get the pin partially in there, so that actually does help. And next is just sliding this over the top of it and bashing the rest in. So I'm just going to do a bit of that next. Now when getting these pins in, it is good to ensure that they are completely flat. Some people can use pliers and press fit them, so that's something I will try in just a moment when I find them. But yeah, try and make sure that these are completely flat. They need to be flush. So here we have some pliers. Just gently give that a squeeze. There we go. That's all on there now. We are all assembled, everything in a good line. So now we can do the reverse assembly. So let's remove all our equipment. Let's grab our nozzle. We want to grab the valve and nozzle spring that goes with it. And this needs to go in spring first into our nozzle. And then it drops all the way down to the bottom. And you just want to make sure you can be able to see it. And so next we want to put our spring assembly into our nozzle, and we're going plastic side first, and what we want to do is align this hole at the front of the plastic assembly with the hole at the top of our nozzle, which you can actually see all the way through. And you basically want to be able to see all the way through to your table. Now I'm going to have to take this off camera to do it because it's quite hard to do blind, but you should be able to manage that just fine. And once that's in there correctly, and you can see all the way through, we will reattach our screw. And so, as I said before about being careful with this, you just want to be hand tight. You don't need to over torque it. It should go in nice and simply. There should be no resistance. Nice and buttery smooth all the way in. Now, something else for you. Whilst we have our nozzle assembly out, it's a good idea to make sure there's no grease or lube on the front of your nozzle. This will prevent any lube getting into your hop up, causing inconsistency. Whilst we have it apart, we might as well clean that off. I don't have anything on my towel, which means I'm doing everything right so far. So now we can carry back on. So next up, we want to attach our rear piston O-ring. That just slides on like that. And we're also going to give this a gentle wipe down. And whilst we're here, we're also going to add some lube. And I'm using my own thin silicone-based lube. It has written on it everywhere that it belongs, including GBBR nozzles here. So I'm just going to apply 2 dots. This is going to make it a little bit smoother, help with compression in our system, keeping everything sealed and silky smooth. And the good thing about this lube is it goes very far. So we only need 2 drops. And then once we have 2 drops there, we can just rub it in with our finger. I've seen some people use paintbrushes for that. That's a really good method to doing that. And the nice thing about rubbing this in with our finger, I'm just going to do 1 more drop for the outside of the O-ring, is my lube is scented, so you walk away with hands that smell nice. Awesome. And if you're into that kind of a lube, there are links down below in the description too. Brilliant. So now that we have all of that, we want to begin our reassembly back into our bolt carrier. So silver tail through our bolt carrier, and we want to get the silver tail to pop out the bottom of it. There we go. You can see it's popped out here. That's all correct. Next up, we want to grab this plastic retainer, and this retainer slides over the back here and is meant to go over our silver tail. However, there is sometimes you need to put something like I'm using my punch here through the silver tail holes and pull it ever so slightly forward, and then the plastic retainer slides on down a bit smoother. So if I just grab that, and this can be a bit fiddly, you always feel like you need an extra pair of hands. There we go, and just like that, it's on, nice and easy. And so next up, we have to do our nozzle guide. Now this is very finicky because we have to attach our tiny spring to it as well. And so what we have to do is we have to put this in place, but then ensure our little nozzle is on the rear guide here that you can see at the back. Let's focus that in. And it has to sit on that and between this channel here. And this is very tricky. This takes a bit of trial and error. So what I like to do is pull forwards on our nozzle here, and we get our guide on. It just slips in like that. All done, very easy. And then I pull it up on our plastic retainer. It can take a bit of bend like that. I place the spring in the position of where it should be in the channel, and obviously now this will not go down. And what I do is I grab a Phillips flathead and I slowly and gently compress the spring through this gap until it can fit on that little post. So I'm just going to do that now. This might be quite difficult to do on camera. And there you go, just like that. It's attached in there. Very finicky process to do that, but that really is the worst of it, I find. And so now we can attach these two screws at the top. And remember, just like I said before, these parts are hand tight. We don't need to over torque them, don't need thread lock. We are going to be just fine with doing this hand tight. All assembled. Now, whilst we're here, just going to do a quick clean off, apply just a little more of our lube. And a great tip, if you're new to GBBRs and you're wondering where you should apply lube, look for the contact areas. They are typically worn away, and this is where you're going to see a lot of your contact. And with our lube especially, you find that it goes a very long way. So one drop there and a drop there may in fact do our entire bolt carrier. So we'll just do that, spread it on with our fingers, spread it on these points, onto these channels and these divots here. Do a little bit more in the rear here where there's some wear. Sure enough, that should be it. So let's go and reassemble back into our MWS, and I'll zoom out for you so you can see all of that. Right, so put this back into our charging handle, slide it down. That's all in there. It's all clicked in, placed into our chamber nicely. Come up here, just depress the buffer a bit. That closes nicely. Put in the rear pin, and we're good. Everything's happy. Let's flip this over. As you can see, looks and seals really well. Let's zoom in really quick. Very good. We're still maintaining good seal here, and it's still springing back with a good amount of snappiness. So there you have it. Not all too difficult to change the nozzle spring in your MWS. I've actually done this a few times now because I forgot to turn on the microphone for this video, so we're all learning from our mistakes here. But yes, if you're looking for anything that featured in this video, like my nozzle springs or lube, they're in the description for you with a link to our website. I'm hoping to do more tutorial videos like this. I've noticed some of the MWS videos could be in a little higher quality. I like to do things in 4K here with good lighting, and I would like to do something on the trigger unit because I know it's quite complicated in the MWS platform, so keep an eye out for that. And so until I make another video, I will see you next time.